the first lesson, we talked about, hey, here are your digital tools. Go have fun. And sometimes for people that feels kind of overwhelming because there's too much information. And there's way too much information. That's why you just try and go little by little. Then the second one was, hey, here's a framework or a couple frameworks for writing an essay. Start thinking about that, start filling in some things. And again, I know from some of you, because some of you reached out to me, some of other people, parents had concerns and said, hey, listen, we don't see, their essay's not perfect yet. You only had 1 week. How could it be perfect? This is supposed to be the absolute greatest thing that you've ever created. Right? Think about it. You have from now until November 1st to November 30th, if it's the UC essays, or sometime in December or maybe January if you got a later Common App essay due. But you have from now, our goal is to get everything done by November 1st. You have from now to November 1st to try and create the single best packet of information that you possibly can and send that to colleges. Because this is your life's work. So it should be hard. Right? You don't want it to be too easy, because if it's too easy, then any monkey filling in some dots and clicks on a computer screen can apply and maybe win a spot over you. That's not what you want. You want this to be hard. Now, you don't want it to be oppressively hard. You don't want this to be so demanding and so challenging that you can't do it. But I don't think that's the case. I've done this for so many thousands of kids. I know what we need to do. I know how we just need to march through the process. You just have to believe in that. And you have to believe that this format of kind of studying, colleges, looking at things, letting that percolate, looking at essays, working on that, letting that percolate. Diamonds take a while. They got to be under a lot of pressure. Coal's got to be under a lot of pressure to produce that diamond. And that's kind of what happens as we progress over the next couple of months. You've got to be able to work through and manage some pressure. This is a really great way to look at your future college life. You're going to have pressures. Okay? Beyond college, you're going to have pressures. And you're going to have to learn to be able to manage that. And this is what we're trying to do here, is teach you these frameworks. So okay, if I break things into small pieces, I find the right tools, I stick to this, I'm going to get stuck, I'm going to get frustrated. Sometimes you just need to take a step back. All of those things are all very natural progression. And this is project planning 101. Right, again, if we go back, that this is this packet that you're going to send to colleges is your best life's work ever. It shouldn't be done overnight. Shouldn't be something that's too easy. And you should be able to learn, what did I do that made that successful? Now, how do we measure success? A lot of people are going to say success is, I got into the college, that was successful. I got rejected, that was a failure. I don't think so. I think that's an unfair way to look at the work that you did. You don't have full control. But do you have full control of what you produce? Yeah. You don't have the ability to limit other people from applying that might be better or different candidates that the colleges want. And just because you get rejected to a college doesn't mean that you didn't belong. It just meant that there may not have been space. So to say that my failure was I didn't get accepted to brand X college, right? Whatever that college is, I think that that's letting yourself down and looking at it incorrectly. Our goal is when you admit this packet, you go, I've done everything I could. This is the best it's going to be for right now. 6 months, a year from now, maybe it would be better. But right now, I did everything I could. It's going to be a huge success for you. You're going to feel really good about that. And then if you get rejected from a college, it's like, okay, disappointing, hate rejection. But you know what? That's just part of this game. Baseball, right? You have 3 strikes, 3 outs, 9 innings. Someone was a big fan of threes here when they created this game. And if you bat 3-3-3, which is getting a hit out of 1 out of every 3 times, in the major leagues, you're a multimillionaire. But you're failing 2 out of 3 times. Think about that. To fail 2 out of 3 times and still be a multimillionaire is kind of amazing. And when you go up, you can get 2 strikes. You can have, 3 balls, 2 strikes if you're not a baseball fan, right? You're almost either going to make it on base on a walk or you're going to strike out. And a lot of times baseball games go 0-0 all the way to the 9th inning before someone gets 1 run and wins. That's very much life. There's a lot of just this, I got to do all the things I got to do and hope that something good happens. There's also 3 bases too, right? First, second, and third. I never thought about that either. Yeah, so I got to do a little research into the to the person. Maybe he had, what is it? There's a phobia, it wouldn't be a phobia of 3, but what's the love of 3? This person really had this this issue with 3 here and made the whole game around that. So we want to recognize that the whole goal is progression. I just need to try and get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. I'm going to get knocked down. I got to get back up. Famous Irish, Asian, Russian, any proverb that you can throw any nationality in there, it's fall down 7 times, get up 8. Right? That's kind of your college admissions process. I'm going to write a great essay. Someone reads it. Wasn't that good? Okay, don't throw it out. Step back. Right? There's one student that's already sent me 2 essays, and I had really strong words. I had definite criticism for that student. Like, hey, you're rushing it. We can't rush this stuff. Greatness takes a while. So that's why we want to try and do things in modular amounts. So that Notion template that you all were supposed to do, that had in there in that workbook, it had little modular content. Hey, what was my favorite part about high school? If I could change high school, what would I do? How would my friends describe me? See, that's so much easier than if I ask, how would you describe yourself? Because now all of a sudden you feel boastful. But if your friends say, oh no, she works really hard, or she never gives up, or she's really stubborn, or she's really smart, right? These are sometimes easier to look at the way others look at you to help you describe your story, which is what we're going to talk about today. So today we're going to go and we're going to spend some time doing going through the digital search tools again, right, to help you refine that search. But I really want to jump into the story aspect because in this week, I need you to find 2 common application essay topics. That is the goal for this week. Find at least 2 topics and start writing a treatment, which would be how I'm going to lay it out, right? It's almost like an outline, but it's a little bit more than an outline. A treatment would be, here's my idea, here's some things I'm thinking about. And the reason we're going to call it a treatment is that it doesn't have to be perfect. Too often when I say I want you to write me a rough draft, people get stuck. I just want to see the big picture. Give me the circle that this all fits in. And that's the treatment. And you're going to have 2 treatments, one for each type of essay. Then you're going to go through after you've written each treatment and you're going to go, I really like essay topic 5, but after I've written the treatment, I see I don't have that much to write about. I don't like essay topic 3 very well, but oh my gosh, I have so much more to write about. So that's going to really help you out. So the number one thing that this is all about, I should stop and ask a question. Anyone have any questions before I get going? I just kind of rolled right into it.
What is a treatment that you were just talking about?
Yeah, so if I were to say, hey, Bennett, I want you to write me an outline. Okay, so the way you were taught to do outlines is here's the topic, and then here's A, and you got to come up with whatever A is. Then you got to come up with subpoints, and you got to do B, and then you got to come up with subpoints, and you got to do C. This is very linear. Bennett, I know you well enough to know that your brain is scattered. right? It's all over the place. You're not alone. It's like all of us are that same way. Very few of us are these perfect linear thinkers. So if I said, write me an outline, Bennett, you would get stuck because you wouldn't know what would come first. And so one of the things that people do when they get stuck and they want to think about an outline is they give me a chronology. And the chronology, as we're going to talk about, is like a documentary. And there are some kind of cool documentaries, but they're pretty boring. Right? Star Wars and Harry Potter and I don't know, whatever, right? Any of these things that there's a story, billions of dollars that are made, the Matrix, right? Hundreds of millions of dollars are made and people wear, let me back up for a second. Many of us, myself included, probably had a lightsaber or the Harry Potter wand at some point or the cap or whatever it was. I want you to go back and through all the documentaries that you ever watched and how many times did you buy something that was worn in the documentary? It just doesn't happen. Because it doesn't have the story that motivates you. And chronology, which is often the way documentaries are written out, are less than exciting. So the outline is great to get us to the essay. But the better way to go about it is this treatment is, I have an idea, and I have another idea, and I go, okay, that's kind of cool, that's a point. Okay, that's another point. Oh, here's a cool little story. Oh, and then here's another little story. Oh, and then I got a character, and then I have another, scene. And so you just kind of are throwing stuff in. You're not necessarily writing in a circle, but the circle's kind of encapsulating everything. And you're just writing these ideas out and the scenes, and there's no order to start off with because it's just coming up to your monkey brain. Your monkey brain jumps around, right? It's only those people that, teachers talk in outlines, but teachers thought about what they were going to write. They went to school, they had someone else give them an outline. They have all this stuff. And so teachers are really forgetting what their initial strategy or their initial development was like. They didn't think in outlines. They thought like this. So this treatment is, hey, we're going to go through and we're going to cover all 7 topics today in the Common App, right? That's the goal. And I'm going to give you some ideas and things to think about so that you can go, oh, yeah, right, I got that point. Oh, and this was an interesting little thing that happened to me. That's a scene. Oh, and there's this one character. Yeah, that would be really good. That would be important. And so I want you to come up with 2 treatments of 2 different essay topics. Now, these treatments eventually will become an outline. But I don't think it's really humanly possible to just write in an outline form because so few of us have a brain that functions that way. If you do have a brain that functions that way, that can be a real gift. However, sometimes that is also a curse because you struggle to problem solve when something doesn't go in order. So we all have strengths and weaknesses, and our job is to, as we get older, to maximize the strengths and avoid the weaknesses. School, unfortunately, does this fantastic job of picking on your weaknesses to try and make them strengths. And this is why people get frustrated. For me, math was hard. Math and science were hard. My brain didn't go in that linear fashion. Jumps all over the place. Watch me give a lecture, you'll be real clear. But if we are in a situation where, thank God my job and my career that I've crafted for myself, I'm able to make all these different things. But if you put me into a lab where I had to follow protocols, I would have been fired. I'd be lucky to be the janitor. You give me this type of career where I can do whatever, then I get to do whatever and I can create my own life. So our brains are different. and our job is to maximize what we can. And in the meantime, we have to get through as much school as possible that's going to pick on our weaknesses, right? But then ultimately, they're trying to bring you up. Okay, so we talked about the documentary being factual, good, but not really motivating, and that no one bought the Harry Potter magic wand or the Luke Skywalker lightsaber, or if you have a black heart, Olivia, I know you probably had the Darth Vader or the Darth Sidious lightsaber because that's the way your heart rolls. Cool, great, she got one. But you didn't buy that. No documentary was going to incite you to do that. So it's going to be better for you to have a story. So let's talk about crafting a story. So we talked about the hero's journey, right? We did this last time. We just briefly talked about the hero's journey. The simple person just living an ordinary life. Something happens. There's this call to action. They go through. They meet the enemy, and we'll talk about what the different enemies or conflicts are. Then all of a sudden they're stuck and they're really doubting themselves. Oh, I know. I'm going to find myself a hero. Every hero has a hero in a hero's journey. And then they overcome that problem and they win. Winning is different. Right? Did I take over the universe, or did I just make it out to the next battle? I think that's the case in both Harry Potter and in Star Wars. And I apologize if you didn't see either one of them. But right, there's lots of stories. So they didn't just win everything; they won incrementally, so that they can continue to go on. And that's your path. You're not taking over the world by the time this essay's done. You're just moving, you're just advancing to the next step. Remember, college is a path, not the destination. Right? That's a real key thing to remember. So what is your path? Your path is progression. No matter what, I have to keep moving forward. I have to keep advancing. That's what makes the story win or work, right? Is that you win. What you win, that's different. So we talked last week or a couple weeks ago, about the and, but, and so. So this is the 3 keys of storytelling. And. The and lets the reader know I'm just like you. I want to go to college and I want to go to college and have great experiences. Okay, well, probably anyone that went to college is just like that. So if you started off your essay, or you at some point in your essay were to say something, right? It's not so simplistic, right? We have to weave this in there. But you invited me into your story by letting me know why you want to go to college. And the and is critical, because it's, hey, what am I looking for? I want to go to college and I want a different future. I want a better future. Terrific. That was why I went to college. Cool, kid, I'm right there with you. Now I have some sort of connection with you. You don't get that in documentaries, you get that in stories. But there was a conflict. What was the conflict? I doubted myself. I had others doubt me. I had dragons to slay, right? We'll talk about what the dragons are. I had enemies. I had whatever. The but is the most exciting thing about the story, because that conflict creates tension, and tension is pretty cool. And then the so explains to the reader you have a solution. I want to go to college and have a different future, but I really don't know what I'm going to do as a major, and I haven't figured out all of the aspects of my strengths and weaknesses. So I want to go to your college. Again, it's not going to be this simplistic, but this is the underlying treatment of it. So I want to go to your college because you've got all of these things that I need in terms of majors and all of this to get me there. Right? So that's the kind of a real simplistic use of the and, but, or so, the ABS. I get invited into the story. I'm just like you. I give me the conflict. Yeah, I didn't know what to do either. Gosh, kid, you're right. That's hard. Oh, you're going to do this? That sounds really cool. So I'm able to weave that story And I'm able to get that. And, but, and so doesn't exist in documentaries. They doesn't exist in chronologies. Chronology just, this happened in 1812, this happened in 1941, this happened in, I forget, I skipped one, 1917, and then 1941, or whenever World War I was. Right, that's the difference between chronology and the story. The story can be a little bit all over the place. So understand this element here, because this element is the best part of storytelling. South Park, if you've all seen South Park. So Trey Parker, was it Matt? What's Matt's name? There's two guys that created South Park, Trey Parker and Matt something. Come on, you guys got to be South Park fans. Someone's got to be a South Park fan. No? Oh my God. Okay, well, Kenny dies in every episode. That's the most important thing to realize about South Park. And it's a stupid cartoon, but they don't have any ands. Everything is a but. And these guys have made gazillions of dollars rating these stories, and there's always a but. This happened, but that then. And that's how they've made their conflict so great. Okay, so that's the ABS. So we want to keep that in mind and definitely be thinking about how to use that. There are a couple different types of conflicts. Do I live in an ordinary world? Have I had a call to action? Did I back down from the call? This makes you human. We're all not superheroes. Anyone watching The Boys? I think it's a Netflix series, right? Okay, so the guy is just there going on, and this happens within the first 5 minutes. I'm not wrecking anything. His girlfriend dies. That's his call to action. He lives in the normal world. He's just normal. And then all of a sudden has this traumatic experience. And now he's called to action to try and solve or get some sort of remedy. And many times he wants to back down from the call to action. That's the conflict. Is he going to give up? Is he going to sell out? And so it's really just classic hero journey stuff right there in The Boys, if you guys watch that one. In all of these hero's journey concepts, we have assets and allies. So who is your hero if it's not you? Well, again, we all have, in the hero's journey, we all have a hero. We all have this guide, this mentor that whispers in our ear, that's giving us direction, that's helping us along the way. Recognizing that you didn't do this by yourself is a huge part of emotional intelligence. We talked about emotional intelligence a couple weeks ago. That's at EQ, right? Just go to Google and type in trademarks of emotional intelligence, or EQ, and it'll give you boom, 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 boom. So recognizing that you didn't take this journey all by yourself is awareness. It's showing them, yeah, you know what? This kid knows how to get help. Because when you go to college, you're going to have roommates, you're going to have friends, and you're going to have professors. And you're going to be on a journey of learning and discovery, and you're going to call on all these people to help you out. And sometimes those professors are going to work against you, and sometimes they're going to work for you or with you. So that's going to be your allies and enemies, right? We all got to figure out who's on our side. And then finally, what's your concept? Your concept is, what am I trying to go? What's my goal out of all of this? So allies and enemies lead to the trials and the ordeal, and then ultimately a resolution. You have to finish your story. What is that?
A loop.
See how it's not quite there? That's a waste of time. Because it's not a full circle, because I didn't spend the extra second to close the loop, Sammy. I still have that little bit of a gap. So I did this beautiful story, I did everything I need to, and I didn't do that last little bit, which is give me a resolution. This is a better story. It's not as big, it's not as grand, but it's complete. It has a beginning, middle, and end. So you need to make certain that you complete your story. If you don't complete your story, you leave the reader unfulfilled. You want the person to put down your essay and go, I want this kid. This is the kid for me. I know, the GPA is not the best and the test scores are not there and they don't have as many as someone else, but look at they've got so much future ahead of them instead of this other kid who was captain of everything but has no heart and soul. You want that essay to resonate with the reader. So where do we start our story? What part is the most alluring part of your story? The part that's the most alluring part of your story is honestly the most mundane. A kid named Henry, right? He wrote all kinds of things, and finally we found this one sentence in his story that said, "I never thought I would be surfing in wool socks." And that's the way he started his essay. Kid was a surfer out here, but he was in Norway or Finland or some country up there. And he, I don't know if it was an exchange program, I can't remember. But anyway, he ends up he wants to go surfing, but all the kids had wool socks on because they need to keep their feet warm. So that's not the way he started his essay, but as he was writing, he had this one little thing and he pulled that out. And so he jumped into his essay by saying, "I never thought I would be surfing in wool socks." No background, just jumped right into it. Conflict is always a great way to start a story. So Henry was no conflict, but it could be, we just lost and I'd let the team down. But most importantly, I let myself down. Oh, okay, that's interesting. Tell me more. And then there's an emotional connection. I've always doubted myself and I struggle so greatly with my desire to want to step out and do more. It's kind of a universal treatment of everyone, right? Unless you're a true narcissist that you believe that stuff that comes out of you doesn't stink. There's some sort of emotional connection in this concept of, I have this thing and I'm going to struggle with it. So you can start your story at any of those. Those are just three. There's a gazillion ways to start a story, but those are three good ones. That last slide, it's not as valuable. There's better ones here. Okay. So remember, stories are better than documentaries, right? Documentaries are cool, but they really motivate the masses. Think about conflict, motivation, and the journey. This is what I want to read about. I want to read about a conflict because it puts you in an element of interest. What is your motivation to get across and battle the conflict? And don't be afraid to give me the journey. Now, we talked last week about time loops. And I just told Sam it was wrong, so I want to make certain that I complete my loops here. So there's three ways to have three loops in any story. One is going to be the story. Two are going to be the characters. And the third is going to be the time, the amount of time. The fancy name for this is the Aristotelian unities. I need a story, but I don't need it to be too big, because I only have 650 words. I need characters, but I don't need too many of them. And I need to have a time frame, but I can't have it over too long of a period of time. Another reason why documentaries suck as a Common App essay. Pick a specific amount of time and then we'll explode out on that. Pick one or two characters and then we'll explode out on that. The more characters you have, the greater the interest in the story, but it's really tough to capture all of that in 650 words. And that story, one single story, right? So this would be an element. What's the story element? What happens too often is people try and write too much. I just want one scene. So maybe instead of element, maybe it'd be better for you guys if I said scene. So what's the scene? Give me just one scene. Give me a few characters. I'm not going to say 2 or 3 at most, right? Because it depends. Because you could be a team. But there's got to be, if it is a team aspect, there's got to be really one person that's kind of your driving force. And then in the time element, right? Don't talk about years. Talk about moments. That's going to give me the best pathway for my journey. Stop me if you guys get stuck or you have questions.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
When you mean by time period, like, because like, how short, like, should the time period be? Like, should it just be high school, or should it be from, like, when you were a teenager? Like, I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, so excellent question. So Sammy's essay, without revealing anything that he doesn't want to share, or we haven't asked him, but it covers what, from age 5, 6? How old were you when you started, Sammy?
Like 5.
Okay, so 5 up until essentially high school. That's a heck of a long time to have a journey in 650 words. Now, what you could do is that this could be your journey. This could be the period of 1 hour, right? Your whole essay could be about 1 hour, but it doesn't mean that there weren't elements of the past and the future that don't get brought in. The hard part, I think, for you, Sammy, is what you're trying to do is that you're trying to weave kind of equal parts of the 3, and not even equal. That's unfair. You have unequal parts, but I think that you don't have enough emphasis on one point, which is then diluting your story. Right? I've said you're a great writer. It's a really cool story, but it doesn't resonate with me. And maybe one of the reasons why is that there was too much time spent in the past and not enough time spent on that aspect. 1 hour, one day, 1 week, 1 month, whatever that could be.
So, like, it should be like an event, and then, like, for that event, it's like I use the past, like I use what I learned to get here, but it's still focused on, like, the event.
What I learned to get here that's affecting this 1 hour.
Okay.
So, let's see. Trying to think of something where I had the culmination of 1 hour that was kind of a big deal. Oh, I know. I had to, I was involved in kind of a frivolous lawsuit at one point, and I had to go to court. So I was on the stand for 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour. I don't know, right? But it was my past experiences in having a degree in speech. It was my knowledge of the material. It was my experience as a business owner. And all of those things I was able to use to help me build out on this 1 hour where I was able to kind of sing for my supper, if you will, right? So it wasn't that my life was just 1 hour. It was the culmination of all of these 35 years before that of my educated life or business life that culminated in this 1 hour critical time of me being on the stand. But I had to, but if I were to tell that story, I have to allude back to that. But I'm not going to give you every aspect and every detail of, well, when I was studying the Aristotelian unities and it was in Dr. Parker's, Dr. Parker's class on Thursday night at 3, right, boring. But it was in my past, having studied this aspect, knowing full well that this was going to catch the lawyer up in a mistake, right? And it was because of, I studied logic, right? And the lawyer was not very good with that, and I was able to trap them in something. So that's what that 1 hour was all about, was a lot of history. So I just have to allude to that. I just can't make it all about that. Does that make sense? It's hard, really hard. Yes, Olivia?
I have a question. Is it possible to create an essay, like a good quality essay that isn't super convoluted, but that discusses a philosophical or moral dilemma? So something that's not really focused on an event or isn't really clear on time, but it's just, like I said, more of like a philosophical or moral dilemma that is like something like that? Is it possible to do that and do it well?
Most definitely, as long as it hits the prompt. You have to answer the prompt. Right, we're going to go through the 7 prompts here in just a moment. And that's the problem, is people write me essays that they want to write and not what colleges want.
Okay.
So there is a way for you to weave in that underlying aspect of your belief system, but still answer the prompt. But you don't get to write this beautiful, it's not soliloquy, but this beautiful essay about all the things that you believe. You kind of have to flash it in there. Okay? Any other questions?
I have another question. So,
Yes, sir.
Like that like 1 hour time period you're talking about, or like one day or whatever. Do you mean like does that event have to be like something that like was life changing, or I don't know, like I'm trying to figure out like what like event I should like use.
So for me, it was totally life changing because it dictated whether I was going to continue to work in the field that I worked in or not. Right? Someone was trying to prevent me from doing something, and I was minding my own business, and they kind of whatever, right? That's why I called it frivolous. And they wanted money. And so I had to literally, do everything that I could in order to win this element. And for me, that was a life-changing moment, but it was a life-changing moment because it dictated which path I go in. It was also maybe kind of cool that I got to use not all, but many of the things in my life that I had studied and worked for that I got to then use to help me decide what I wanted to do. And then you would say, okay, that's all well and good. What did you learn from it? And that's the thing that, you only touch on it at the very end, right? That last little paragraph, maybe 2 sentences about all the things you learned. You wrote me a lovely documentary, and that's not what resonates and connects with me. It was, oh man, I had that exact same struggle when I was his age. Totally different aspect, totally different activity, but oh my gosh, yes, I totally remember that. And your opening scene's kind of, that's kind of like resonates, like, oh, yep, it's dragged to the car. Right? All of you have been dragged to your parents have dragged you to the car at some point, right? That's a universality that is great. So, any other questions? Don't be bashful. Your time. Okay. All right. So, what's standing in your way? This is the critical thing, is when you're writing your story, what's standing in your way from success? The better that you're able to identify that, and the more specifically you're able to identify that, the more likely you are to connect with your reader. Why is it important that you do this? Because it's just something you got to do every day? No, that's boring. Why is it important that you take on? Olivia, whatever your philosophical struggle is, why is that important to you? And you would have to answer, well, it kind of keeps me up at night. Or I have a lot of concerns about the way the world is going. Or I just don't know if I can continue to be friends with this person if they can't figure this out. Right? Not to be political at all, but one of the reasons why there's a lot of turmoil in our country right now is because there are people, and we're just going to say red or blue, and people have stopped believing that they're very similar. And they believe that there's this wall that's separating the two of them. And there's no communication that goes between the two because people have put up this wall. This makes for an interesting story because it's got conflict, but there's no resolution. The resolution is when you punch a hole through that wall, and now there's communication that goes to both sides. That's interesting. So why is this important? Well, I have a way of being able to connect these two things. That's pretty cool. And then what are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to achieve just happiness? Yeah, I just want to be a kid that just goes through life. That's pretty cool. A happy person, we only get one life apparently. So if we only get one, I just want to live the very best one I can. Or, you know what? I think that I would put on the face of the earth for something greater. And so therefore, because I put on the earth for something greater, I'm trying to achieve happiness for more people. That's equally as cool. Which one's better? Well, that's not our decision. It's, did you answer the prompt? That's all that matters here. Universality. This is such a weird one. And this is the one that you'll have to really struggle with in order to get right. Somehow, some way, the more specific you get, the more universal something resonates. This is the wildest thing, but it's so, so true. So there's a TV show, Ted Lasso. You either watch it or you don't. You either love it or you hate it, right? But he's this, he's an American football coach that he's like super positive, everything. And somehow he gets hired to go coach a premier level soccer team in England. Doesn't know anything about soccer. And, you know, he's a butt of all jokes, and there's a kind of something called imposter syndrome, which is a big thing out there, like you don't believe in yourself. But there's one quote in there that I still remember. And it's essentially that Ted Lasso said, you remember you're just about to go to bed, but you realize you're too tired to floss. Okay, that's me. I make up that. I should floss all the time. I don't. Right? I know it's good for us, blah, blah, blah. But I get to that and like, oh, I'm just so tired. I'm just going to brush my teeth. Okay, flossing's going to take an extra 30 seconds and I'm too tired to floss? No, bogus. I just don't want to floss. But that is something so specific that it's universal to everyone. Now, some of you are going, Mike, that's really stupid. Okay, well, it resonated with me. So the more specific you get with something, the more universal it gets. So Sammy's essay, he was writing something about, hey, I didn't want to do this thing, but I got dragged to my car all the time. Totally perfect thing, because I don't remember getting dragged to the car, but I remember dragging my kids to the car. And I could, whatever he wrote, I envisioned that in my mind just like that. Because it was so universal. He invited me into his story, and that's what you really need to do. You need to create somehow, some way to jump your reader into the story. And one of the ways to do that is get specific. Everyday situations. Sammy's story about getting dragged to a car is an everyday situation. So stories exist everywhere, but are you able to extract something interesting from it? So mundane can be interesting when it's used correctly. Okay, every day I tie my shoes. I tie my left one, then I tie my right one. I always double knot them. Okay, that's pretty mundane. And I'm going to have a hard time finding anything interesting about me tying my shoes. But if I were to say that tying my shoes and double knotting was kind of a metaphor for my life of double checking things, and that I recognize that I'm making this all up on the fly, by the way, that my life begins from my most simple foundation, right? Have good shoes and be protected, and being able to go off into the world and know that I'm going to have this solid foundation that's going to get me there to the next thing that I don't need to worry about, right? That's an everyday situation that you can parlay. Getting dragged to the car, well, what does that do? Well, that got me into the process of recognizing that this was part of my life, and that this boring aspect of having to go do this every day was what I was going to have to do for the rest of my life, and I had to learn to realize that. So mundane situations are great ways to jump people in because it's unexpected. You guys don't have to be these great superheroes. right? Everyone thinks that, oh, I got to write this essay. No, that, I was saying the guy that wrote about surfing in wool socks was not a superhero. He had just cold feet, and that was a way to protect him from cold feet. But it was really interesting to get to the next point. So it's a vehicle. All you're doing is just taking this mundane situation and using it as a vehicle to take you from one place to the next. So there we go. Mundane can be interesting in the right context. Circle of life. These are other things that can be interesting. Part of the universality is that when we all have successes and failures, hope and hardship. As I was sitting on that witness stand and there was a break, I was doubting whether I was doing enough to be able to win the case. If I lost, I was not going to be able to work for a year in an industry, which would have caused me to go bankrupt. If I won, then it was a chance just to go back to my everyday life. So that's a success, that's a failure, that's a hope and a hardship, right? Coming back, waiting for the decision in the court and talking to my wife and having my young children there and wondering, are we going to lose our house? Are we going to do this? What are we going to do? Those are things that are very real to me that I can then show you, hey, this is the way life is. Life can be tough. But what did I learn from it? I learned to not give up, and I learned to keep on fighting. And I've gone through enough of these ups and downs that when COVID hit and I lost, you would be shocked how much if I told you how much money I lost, but I kept going because I had already faced the dragon a couple years before in court. And I knew that I couldn't give up. I had to keep going. Right? So that there's conflict there, and that conflict makes it interesting. So it's the circle of life. People also like order. They like chaos, good and evil, and hero or goat. And now this is not greatest of all time. This is maybe an older expression, right? But you're just a goat. You just suck. So notice that these are the opposites. People love those polar opposites to create this conflict. Order, chaos, good and evil, hero or goat. That's a great way to jump into conflict. The one really amazing thing about this, everyone tries to be clever. Don't be clever. Be clear. Clear is so much better than clever. See, when you're clever, not everyone understands your cleverness, and your story goes flat. When you're clear, there's a chance it's a little more boring, but there's a greater chance that everyone understands it when they read it. So be clear, not clever, and be different by being truthful. Reveal your flaws. We've talked about that. Share your struggles. Show your insecurities. And learn from your failures. You do those 4 things, and you're very truthful, you're a rock star when it comes to an essay. What ends up happening is that people try to not be truthful, and they try and be someone they're not, and they're no longer different. They're like everyone else who wrote this essay. Everyone that's writing these essays is trying to be someone you're not. You're trying to show this college that you're the best person, most perfect candidate for the college. College just doesn't want that. Be truthful. Yeah, here are the things I'm not good at. These are the things I struggle with. I really wonder if I'm going to be any good at this. But you know what? I learn really well from my failures, and I think I'm going to go on to be successful because I understand this. That's a kid that I want. I am the greatest. I have no flaws. I've never struggled. I'm always the captain. I'm always get an A. I have no insecurities. Imposter syndrome. I scoff at imposter syndrome. Learn from failures. How could I learn? I've never failed. Trust me, I read essays like that all the time. They're no good. All right. There's only 3 types of conflicts: hero versus nature, hero against society, and hero against self. Here's the interesting thing. Hero against nature. Life will be fair is what we think, But, notice the word but, life is actually cruel, random, and heartless. So we go into life, our ordinary life, we're thinking that life is going to be fair. But life throws us a curveball. And it's actually just totally random, totally cruel, and totally heartless. That makes for a great story. Hero against society. We hope that society is going to be nice, but people are hostile, people are competitive, and people are unkind. Not everyone, but when we have conflict, people are hostile, competitive, or unkind. And then the third one, I don't know why it's doing that, sorry. Hero against self. I get up each day thinking I'm going to be perfect. God made me perfect in every way, blah, blah, blah. But I'm too proud. I can be sometimes very lazy. Yes, I'm exceptionally selfish, and dear God, I am flawed. Right? Those are the three things that if you can't have them all, but if you have one of those elements and you include those aspects, you're going to have an essay that's going to resonate with people. It's really going to stand out as being way, way different. All right, so there's 7 essay topics that the Common App essay uses. Let's go through each one. Some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent so meaningful they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, please share your story. No essay out of the next 7 topics that I'm going to show you, no essay topic is better than another. The essay topics are all about which one you have the best chance of writing a great essay on. And your homework, right, for this week is to write a treatment on 2 of these. So let's suppose that my background is, or identity or interest, that, I don't know, maybe I was born a specific way, or maybe I was born in a different part of the world and I had this tremendous struggle to go through life, and that formed my identity of this person who just never gives up, or is not going to fail and is just going to keep on going. And I had to recognize that life was unfair and cruel and society was mean and that I had self-doubts. But it is made me who I am. So we can use the whole aspect on a lot of other essay topics. But if you have a background, identity, or interest, or even talent, that's the thing you need to include. So I may have used this story with you. If so, please stop me. But I had the kid that was, I tutored him for college essay applications, actually, that was Dash for The Incredibles. And, he wanted to go to USC, I think was the school that he was hoping to get into. And he says, I want to write about being Dash. And I'm like, dude, what, you're on a Hollywood soundstage and you're reading scripts and you get money, and how is that going to make you? And he goes, no. I had all these people waiting on me. And, they told me, I overheard someone say that, every minute costs like $5,000, that there are all these people and they're renting the stage and whatever. And so every time that I made a mistake, that could have been $10,000 or $15,000 if I went through and they had to reset and do whatever. So I had to learn how to not fail and how to keep going and all these things. I'm like, oh my God, that's an amazing essay. That was that guy's talent or identity, where it was everyone thought that he had it easy because he was this character, but in reality it was a struggle, and he talked about overcoming that struggle. And I thought that was an amazing essay that he did. But he had that background and kind of identity, and that he could pull that off. If you don't have that, this is a tough one. But everything we talked about can be used in other ones. Anyone have a question on essay topic number 1? Okay. Essay topic 2. The lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, a setback, or a failure. How did it affect you, and what did you learn from the experience? Ding, 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 hero's journey right here. Right? I'm just the average boy or girl. I encounter some sort of issue, but it's all of a sudden going to take, and that's going to help me. I faced a challenge or a setback or a failure. Order, chaos, good and evil, all those things we talked about. How did it affect you? What did you learn from the experience? That right there is the money. That's where you're going to earn your money right there. What did you learn from the experience? You want to use the hero's journey to set it up and tell people, but in the end, they want to see that you learned something. And what did you learn that is that universal aspect that I will connect with me as the reader? So, yeah, I learned to be a straight A student. Who cares? I got a lot of those. I learned to be someone who doesn't give up. I learned to be a friend that never leaves my friend's side. I learned to be the son or a daughter of a parent who's struggling with an addiction or whatever, and that my love will never give up on this person, right? Those are the things that's what you learn about yourself. That's the thing that ties it. When the person puts the essay down, they go, that's the kid I want. So the hero's journey puts me into a specific spot, but man, I've got to close it out strong with what I've learned. If you don't have that aspect, that's hard. This is why writing the whole essay or whole outline is so difficult, but it's so much easier to write that treatment where you have a bunch of ideas and you're just putting them all, putting them all out there, and then we can go through and go, ooh, this one's really good, right? And then asking someone else that's on this call, right, partner up and go, well, what sounds interesting? I write stuff all the time, and I think it's going to be fantastic. I put it out on Twitter, and I get either 1 like or 100 likes, or retweets or whatever, and I find out. The world tells me that it was interesting. You guys don't need to go to Twitter. You guys got people here, right? So let's utilize this network of people and say, hey, does this look like a good idea? Bennett, your question.
Should the treatments look like how you drew it earlier, like just on a piece of paper, draw a big circle and just start writing whatever comes to mind? Or should it be like just one big quick write paragraph with just listing everything that you can think of relating?
So this is called a mind map. Right, so you have an idea, then you have a detail, then you have, point number 1, point number 2. It could be this. It could be that circle where you're just writing ideas and down. But ultimately, your job is to do a brain dump, a mind dump, whatever you want to call it. Your job is whatever one of these topics is resonating with you, start writing your ideas down. Don't try and find a flow. Just write the ideas down. Then, after you've done writing ideas down for 5, 10, 15 minutes, however long you write, and all the different elements, now take a piece and go, okay, I'm going to try to reorder. This one is like this one. And this one is, okay, it's not like that. That's way over here. And then as you reorder that, you look and you go, okay, that one's dumb. I'm just going to cross this off. I'm going to focus in on these. So as you start, Bennett, I can't tell you the way your brain works, but for me, that mind map, because my brain jumps around everywhere, I study for tests. I do everything that way. I've created whole businesses just more or less sitting out on a mind map and go, oh, okay, I got to do this. That's step 1. Step 2 is to order them. Step 3 would then to create an outline. Step 4 would be to write a first draft. You just have to get very, very used to, when you're doing a project, there's a lot of revision. For you to get mad at yourself because, oh, I just didn't get it, that's not you being fair to yourself. You're just punk teenage snotty-nosed kids. Love you, but still, just one of those things. Any other questions on essay topic number 2? I know we're past the time here, but we'll go quickly here. Number 3, reflect on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. What prompted your thinking? What was the outcome? So, reflect on a time when you questioned a challenge or belief or an idea. So I had a really interesting one from a student. Her parents were, I don't know if they were Buddhist, but they were similar to kind of a Buddhist mentality. And she was following along with that. And then all of a sudden she started to question it one day and she realized that's not for me. And she didn't see the order or the peacefulness or the comfort that her parents had from following this Buddhist philosophy. And it was a growth process. She was challenging beliefs, which is normal, right? This is normal stuff. But it caused chaos. It caused a rift within her parents because she no longer went to a temple or synagogue. I don't know what the right term for Buddhists would follow, or where they would go. But it caused this tremendous chaos and internal strife between her parents and herself, which then caused a drop in grades because she started to really just struggle to be emotionally connected to her family, which was so important to her. But this process of her working through her thoughts was so critical that she felt that she had to keep going, and she didn't want to just sell out and say, okay, Mom and Dad, you're right, I'm just going to follow along. And what prompted the thinking was that she kept seeing things in the real world that didn't match that philosophy. And the outcome was that she was able to reconcile with her parents that believer, non-believer, right? There was a wall, and this conflict was that they could not get past the wall. And the resolution or the outcome was that they figured out a way to still love each other but have different beliefs, because they realized that they are alike and that she came from them and all of this stuff. And it was a really beautiful essay about a growth process. This was a couple-year process that she was able to distill down into 650 words. So she started with the day that she was in church, or like I said, I don't know where they would go, but wherever the worship place is, she started there saying, it was in the middle of someone's reading that she realized, I don't belong here, I don't want to be here. And that's the way she started her essay. Bam! Great conflict. And then she kind of alluded back to, I'd always followed along. I always was the good girl. I was always this. I always did that. And she did that in like 2 sentences. So the easiest thing to think about is it's kind of like a montage. So Sammy, back to your question from like 40 minutes ago. You could kind of do a montage real quick of different scenes that just catches me up. And if you want to see maybe the greatest montage in all of film, watch the film Up. You hate that movie, Olivia?
Yeah, it's so sad. I don't want to torture myself.
It is horribly sad, but those two, I've timed it. I can't remember how long the montage is. It's only a couple minutes. But it's this love affair where they go and they're saving money and they keep saving for the trip, and then all of a sudden, she gets sick and then she dies and he's left alone. And it's like, oh my God, in 5 sentences they have 30 years just like that. And they jump right into the story of now the Boy Scout shows up at the house, trying to sell him something, right? Or whatever it is. So that's a montage. It catches you right up. It's brilliant. And it is a story. It's not a documentary. But I get dust in my eye every time I watch that. Just like the same dust I got when I dropped off my baby. Any questions here on this one? So like I would write an essay, and it could be very universal, about that time where you look back at your parents and you look forward to your future and you realize you're now by yourself. We've all had that moment. It could be at kindergarten, it could be the first day of high school, it could be high school graduation, it could be first day of college. We've all had that universal moment where I look back at my parents and I look at my future and I have to go forward. And I have to break free, and I have to do that. That is a specific but universal moment that will resonate. That's your goal. You got to try and find those points. Okay, essay topic number 4. This is a new one this year. Reflect on something that someone has done for you that has made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. Yay! How has this gratitude affected or motivated you? I really don't like this topic. And the reason I don't like this topic is there's no conflict. We just talked about an hour having conflict and being interesting, and there's no damn conflict here. Reflect on something someone has done for you that has made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. How has this gratitude affected or motivated you? It's not that you can't write a good essay, because you can, but I find that this essay topic is going to be a little more dry or boring than one of the other topics. If you do take this essay on, it's affected or motivated you, and the term to include is called future outcome. So if you write on this essay, you really need to, if you don't include this word or this phrase or pair of words, make certain you include future or outcome if you don't want to include future outcome. Because that's what this essay is all about, is how this one single act of kindness or repeated acts of kindness has helped you out. Essay number 5, discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and new understanding of yourself or others. Olivia, this might be what you were talking about, right? This philosophical thing. I think the critical part to realize, though, is it's got to be the realization. When was that moment that I had this realization that all of a sudden I'm going to take off in this new direction? Now, you could start your story right from that moment of realization. I crossed the finish line last. I had trained for years. I had fought through injury. I'd done all of these things. I came back. I battled back against kids that cheated and tried to take things from me. And all I thought that mattered was winning. And I crossed the finish line last and realized that all that mattered was I finished. And then you could go off on your whole story about right there. Right? Because that was that moment right there in time that I realized something was happened. You get the personal growth, new understanding of others. That's all that emotional IQ stuff that we talked about a couple weeks ago. So I'm hoping that you see that everything that I do is layering, right? We talk about fundamentals and then we go here and then all of a sudden, boom, I can now go write my story because I know I got all my layers. I just have to do it. Describe a topic, idea, or concept you find so engaging that you lose all track of time. Why does it captivate you? What or who do you turn to when you want to learn more? This is your hero's hero? Who's your mentor? Is there a reason that you had and came into this that's so fascinating? Is there a time that this ever let you down and you started to doubt yourself? Right? Look for conflict in there. Could you have found that? Okay, so one of the things that bothers me, it's slightly political, not looking to make it political, but there's a huge immigration, illegal immigration or amnesty, whatever you want to call it. There are people coming across the border at a greater rate than ever before. And some people believe that that is the most fair and honest thing that we could do as a country is take others who are having a less fortunate time. There are others that think that that is unfair. There are people that think that that is racist. There are people that think that it's not being true to its citizens. There's all these conflicts that come from that. And it is the sort of thing that I dwell about, thinking about all the positives that could come from letting all these people in. We have a worker shortage. This is a great way to get workers. But we have tremendous downside on our services, and people are taking our free health care, and it's driving up costs of people who pay taxes. So there's this tremendous back and forth, and I really will obsess about this almost unhealthily. And why does it captivate me? Because it's a struggle for me. Why can't I see the other side? Why do I only see it one way, but why do other people see it the other way? And so who do I turn to when I want to go more? I don't really have a good mentor, right? So I'm going to fall down on that one, but I'm not writing the essay topic, but I could create one, right? I could go through and realize, okay, who do I look for? Who do I study? Who can I go talk about this with? But that would be something that I would say, hey, this is that case. So for you, it may not be so, it may be more trivial. It might be more whatever. It doesn't make any difference. What you write about is less critical than the object that you're writing about, or the thing that you're writing about is less critical than actually what you're writing, and that you're showing this path of why does it captivate me? So the money sentence right here is this one. Why? What or who do you turn to? Sure, I got to include my hero's hero, but really I'm looking at why. Final one. Share an essay on any topic of your choice. It can be one you've already written or one that responds to different prompt or one of your own design. All right. I think this one is dangerous. They say that they're all equal. They say that there's not going to be any penalty. I find this one to be the one that scares me most. The reason it scares me most is because they gave you 6 beautiful topics and you decided to go give your own. You didn't care enough about them to write your own essay. That's the way I would read this one. Right? So I know all 6 things because I'm a reader and I get paid to do this. And I get one about something completely different. I'm going to scratch my head and say, did this kid really care about coming to this college? Because they couldn't write their own specific essay for me. However, you may have written something that won a contest and it's magical. And it's got to be shared with the world. Okay. But maybe is there a way that you could take that existing essay and form fit it into one of the other 6? So this one scares me. Like I said, they say that they're all the same, of equal weight. This one bothers me the most. Final thing, there is a COVID question. Where can I explain how COVID had an impact on me? COVID has affected students. The question is not intended to be an extra essay. There's also no need to describe how your school responded to these events, right? There's all kinds of things about the essay, the COVID portion, that if you feel compelled that you want to write something, I will help you write it. But I think for this year, unless you had a truly traumatic event, I think that this is the year that we don't write about that COVID essay, that optional essay. Now, you had something that was very traumatic that was life-changing, sure. Let's go ahead and explore that. But I don't think we need to do that. And then finally, I just wanted to say, all of these stories need to have a conclusion. You need to have you need to jump your reader in, and you need to jump your reader out. You have to let them know that you're done. Don't just say I'm done, but there has to be some sort of conclusion on that. And that conclusion is so different based on all of these different essays. So there is not going to be a simple template that you say, oh yeah, here's how you conclude it. We'll have to work on those each one, because each one of the 6 different essay prompts kind of requires a different conclusion. Okay, questions, and then we'll go. No questions? Yes, ma'am.
So you said when should we turn in 2 of these? Like by when?
Before the next class, which often means that people around 5:50 my time will be sending me things 10 minutes before the class starts and say, Mike, I sent it to you. You didn't read it? No, I was doing my own stuff. Sometime this week, you don't have to have both of them done. Get one done and send it to me, and then get some feedback on that one so that you can make the second one better, or you can just change that one. But what I would love for you to do is, during this week, I would like you to take a look at all 7 of those paragraphs. I would like you to take a look at everything that I wrote, and I'll send an email with a link to the Google Slides and to this, this presentation, right? This thing. And you can take a look, and from whatever your notes you have, from my Google slide deck, from if you want to rewatch certain parts, I want you to go through and create a initial something. We're going to call it a treatment, but treatment's got a big funny term. There's no correct answer or definition of what a treatment is for this. But I want you to approach 2 different questions. Give me your ideas. Give me your examples. Think about a way to kind of jump your reader into it. Don't worry about a conclusion, right? Because that you don't have that yet. But hey, I'm thinking about this would be a way to start this. Doesn't have to be the exact wording, but this would be where I would start. I'd started right here. And I'd like you to do that for 2 essays. And again, the reason why, a lot of people go, ooh, I like essay number 5, because that seems like it's going to be easy. Then all of a sudden you do a treatment, you realize you have nothing to write about, which is why I force you to pick a second one. And sometimes you realize I have more to write about on another one. But it's the easiest way to kind of jump yourself into this essay writing process. If there's any sense of being overwhelmed by the writing process, doing this is the best way to make that go away. I got some ideas down on paper. I put them in an organized fashion or semi-organized fashion, and then we start taking a look on how to go into greater depths. The other thing I would love for you to do, I did get a handful of you to send me your college list, the initial list. I tried to make some quick feedback on some of those. One student, great choices, all lovely places in the sun, but I encouraged her to look for some places outside of California simply because it's tough going to California schools right now. So that would be what, keep searching colleges. A parent asked me a question earlier this week that her son had not found his list of colleges yet. They hadn't gotten down to like the final 15. We're nowhere close to getting to the final 15. You guys have so much more research. You have so many more places to look at. So don't think that this is just magically happens. You have to put in your time. I have a couple distance runners here on my call. To run 10 miles, you got to start off being able to jog walk 1, and then eventually you get to 2 miles, and then 4 miles, then 6, then 8, then finally you do 10. You feel pretty crappy after your first time doing 10, but after you've done that for a while, yeah, I can do that. Right? So this is the process. Just get going. Just keep moving forward. And the more time you spend with it, the easier it will get. If you have a specific question, hey, I really don't understand how to use Big Future. I really don't understand how to use college results. Then, hit me up, and maybe I'll make a quick video, and I'll post it for everyone to use. So, okay. Any questions?
So we should just like email you the two things, right?
Yes, you should definitely email me those two things. I'm going to tell you that we're about a week away from your parents starting to get kind of itchy trigger fingers, and they're going to start sending me emails. Mike, dear Mike, why haven't I seen an essay done? Dear Mike, why haven't I seen a list of colleges done yet? So we're going to have to share that with your parents sometime soon. It's fantastic if you share it with me first, because then I can help you present it in a way so when your parents see it, they go, oh, okay, good job, Jack. Right? But if you send something a little premature to your parents, they go, what, this is it? And they have no idea how hard it was for you to get to even that point. So send it to me first. I can help you massage it in a way so that when we go share it with your parents, they're gonna feel good that you're actually doing the work. Have you ever seen the Heisman Trophy? Heisman Trophy is given to the best college football player of the year. It's a dude holding the football in one hand, and he's got his arm. It's called stiff arm in the other one. This is the way you want to approach your parents. We want to stiff arm them with the college application stuff as humanly long as possible, right? Because when they're not in your stuff, you can relax more. The moment they get in your stuff, there's tension. There's tension on their side, tension on your side. Tension's conflict, which is good in stories. But when we're doing college application stuff, we want to present to them when you have something to really present. Because if you present something to them that's unfinished, they're just going to look and go, I don't know what they're doing. And if you can say, here's my initial phase, here are the 10 colleges that I've researched that look really interesting, here are my 2 treatments on my college application essays, and I have to decide on which one, and you present that in a nice pretty package with a bow, your parents are going to go, that's great, keep working. And they're going to stay out of your stuff, which is going to lower your stress. There will be a time that we bring parents in because they've got to be involved because they've been involved in your lives here, right? Whoever that person is, we've got to involve them, but we got to involve them a little later. All right? Any questions? Good? Okay. I'm going to go. I have my weekly call with my baby now. I FaceTime my baby who's in college. And I'm certain that it'll be about 2 minutes and he'll be bored of me. But at least I get to go do that. So, okay, so if there are no questions, I wish you all a very good week. I look forward to seeing a college list from some of you and also a couple of treatments. Don't hesitate to email if you get stuck. All right, have a good evening. Thank you.